So let's get into some birth chart analysis. So a little bit of background when it comes to astrology. Astrology is more than just, oh, I'm a Pisces sun and a Virgo rising. So you can typecast me as a person that is clean all the time and cries at romantic movies, or looks orderly and looks put together but also comes off sensitive. Like it's more than that. You have to pay attention to where planets are in each of the 12 houses, the aspects that are being made between different planets, the types of aspects being made between different planets, the degrees of those planets, as well as, are you looking at a night chart or a day chart? What is the sun, moon, and rising sign? As well as, just more of the, and actually that's actually quite a bit of it, and an understanding of the quadrants of the houses and the elements of the signs as well. So I like astrology for that reason, because there's so many things you can deep dive in, and I'm a big proponent of astrology, not just because it's something where you can say, oh, I'm in this, I'm in that, and I'm another. More importantly, because it can be a tool that's used for self-development and self-awareness. I don't believe that the birth chart is indicative of your personality throughout your entire life. I believe that there are some lessons that you learn early in life or later in life where an aspect, a position of a planet no longer has an effect on your birth chart. Or once you learn that lesson, it becomes a strength. So let's say, for instance, you have a hard square in your birth chart. Let's say Sun square Neptune. That could be a lack of identity with the self, let's say, for instance, or just a struggle with identity, like a push and pull between who you think you are in your head and maybe who you are to others, depending on the house that it's in, depending on your rising sign, the planets that are interacting with the sun, etc., etc. But let's say, for instance, you grow up until the age of 9 and you kind of like, well, we won't say 9 because I don't think anybody really knows who they are at 9 years old. I don't even think they're asking questions like, who am I at 9? I think I did, but that's besides the point. So let's say up until 25 years old, you kind of wore a number of different hats and you were just like, yeah, I feel like I'm goth this day and I'm, boho the next day. This is just a very minor, identity crisis aspect of that might show up. Obviously, I think Sun square Neptune can point to issues related to, let's say, for instance, authority or parental figures, specifically the father, for instance, where more of those identity issues come from. But on a smaller scale, you have issues like that going through your life, and then here comes a major transit to your natal Neptune. Let's say, for instance, Pluto conjunct Neptune, which obviously is going to be a huge transformation to your, dreams, what Neptune rules, like your dreams, your subconscious, things related to art, stuff like that. That is a total transformation and destruction. And because of that major aspect being in play, it's also going to light up the area of the chart that's making that square with your sun and change and radicalize that sun placement, that identity, where you could become more galvanized in your sense of self. Or it might be a Saturn transit, for instance, Saturn conjunct Neptune, Saturn square Neptune, for instance. So I enjoy astrology for many reasons, because I can look at it from a lens of finding complex patterns, and something that I enjoy. You would think that would make me more decent at chess than having a 880 rating. But to be fair, I've only been playing chess online since September, and I'm very much still learning the mechanics of the game. So I should be studying more than I'm playing, but here we are. I'm just a glutton. So anyways, let's look into some birth charts. So let's see, who do we want to look up? Let's look at, for whatever reason, you guys remember the artist Pink? What's her name? What's her Alicia Beth Moore Hart. What a pretty name. Alicia. So I'm interested to know if she's got Scorpio placements in her chart, and or like, let's say like Scorpio and or Aquarius placements, because she's got, her music has always been super like, I'm not listening to you, I'm doing my own thing, and also like I'm living my life the way that I want it. Maybe she's got a lot of Sagittarius in there as well. So let's see. Let's look at AstroSeek. So let's zoom in here. All right, interesting. So she's a Virgo, born September 8th from Doylestown, Pennsylvania. Interesting. She's got her sun in Virgo, moon in Aries, ascendant in Sagittarius. Okay, I can definitely see the moon in Aries because she does have a playfulness about her emotions, about her music. It's always like, what is that song? Like, I'm not here for your entertainment. Most of her songs kind of has like, I can just shrug you off my shoulders and just move on and live my life and take it as like an experience, for instance, or just for whatever it's worth. And I feel like I vaguely remember a lot of her music videos having like a circusy, a lot of colorful, a lot of like childlike themes in it. So Moon is going to be something that, along with Neptune, is connected to music because Moon is about your emotions. And I should more so say it depends on how the Moon is aspected and where it is in the chart. That could lean to more of like a lover or a connoisseur of music. So she's got an ascendant of Sagittarius, so we kind of figured that with her boldness and her music. But what's interesting here, hoping that her chart is accurate, being born at 3 o'clock, is that her ascendant is in her 12th house of Sagittarius. So that could be somebody that ascendant in the 12th house kind of doesn't necessarily lean more towards a spotlight. They have a mysteriousness or like a dreamy like quality to them, where it's kind of like, because the 12th house is naturally ruled by Pisces, and Pisces is, the giver, Pisces is the sacrificial one, Pisces is the heartfelt, dreamy one. It kind of needs to retreat a little bit to make sure that it has enough reserve to be able to share with others. And or create for others, but it also rules the subconscious. The 12th house rules the subconscious. The 12th house rules dreams. The 12th house rules, hidden enemies. It also rules hospitals and prisons. But Neptune, but her ascendant being in the 12th house can kind of say somebody that definitely does need a lot of time to recharge their batteries and to be a recluse. Now, what's interesting is the ascendant in the 12th house in Sagittarius seems to me like, from that, she's a true introvert, where she potentially could gain a lot of creative energy because of that Neptune being there from spending time in solitude on her own. It's an interesting placement having and she's a Capricorn first house, but it's an interesting placement having Sagittarius in the 12th, because Sagittarius is, naturally ruled by the 9th house, where it's all about learning, higher education, long distance travel, and it's just out there. It kind of reminds me of, like in tarot, for instance, the Chariot. It's got a Chariot quality, even though the Chariot is, Cancer's card. But there's a quality to this where a lot of truth, a lot of insights, a lot of creative energy comes from spending time alone. So that's interesting. Moving to Moon in the 4th house of Aries. Looks like it's going to be tightly conjunct the IC, which means it's opposite the MC. Interesting. And she also has Pluto on her MC of Libra. Okay. A couple different things here. Also, happy birthday, Jude Law, John Voight, Dexter Holland, Woodrow Wilson, and Mimi de Pompadour. Chief Mistress to Louis the 15th. What does a Chief Mistress mean? I'm going to go right back to what I was doing here, but I just gotta... Okay, so it's an informal position during the reign of Henry IV. Oh, so I guess it's just what we may think. It's just a, lady in waiting or a maid of honor. Yikes. Kind of sucks. That's a crappy role to have. Um, anyways, so Pink has Moon in the fourth house of Aries. The fourth house rules home, family, roots. It's kind of your pillars for how go forward with living your life. It's the early kind of ways you understand like those familial dynamics in terms of like relationships. Her moon being there would tell me that her relationship with her mother was a very impactful one. It being tightly conjunct the IC, I don't know if she has any kids. I don't know. Like, this to me, Moon being so close to the IC opposite the MC would be like a big struggle with wanting to have children, or like child rearing being something that she feels as though she has to choose for. Um, it kind of makes me think of like the person that wants to do both, that wants to have a child and wants to be a career man or career woman, but having maybe some difficulties with that. Let's look that up while we're here. Some children. Maybe we can find some articles. Okay, so she's got 2 children with her husband, Carrie Hart. I don't want to look too much into this because I want to be able to make my interpretations and see if I'm correct. Also, side note, I could absolutely be wrong on these interpretations. Again, I like the scientific process of having a hypothesis, going out to find the data to see if that hypothesis is correct, and being able to say, that was a correct hypothesis, or that was a incorrect hypothesis, or that was a incorrect hypothesis, but maybe on a right track to something else. So she loves being a mom so much. That's awesome. Let's see on Wikipedia. I think it's I didn't mean to add the bookmark. Let's see, personal life. Usually that's tagged there. Yeah. Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, November 2010 announced that would be interesting too, to look at the time of November 2010, what was going on in her birth chart, to see the announcement, if there was like a lot of mercurial placements, if there was stuff going on in the 10th house, stuff going on in the 4th house. Doesn't seem like we're getting a lot of information here. She wants her children to have less screen time and that they shouldn't have social media because they improves with their time. Well, let's say journey to have children. Which maybe we shouldn't speculate on this. So we'll get off this topic. Anyways, let's see what else is going on here with the aspects that are being made on the moon. So Pink has a square to her Mars. So Moon square Mars. I'm not saying that, anybody is necessarily this way or has the attitude of being more short-tempered, but Moon in Aries kind of leans to somebody that has more of a kind of just react first, think about what you said or what you did later. For better or for worse. Not to say that these people are hotheads by any means or anything like that, but we can see through Pink's music, she has a very much like, I'm here, I'm asserting myself, and what are you going to do about it kind of persona, even though she does have like an intensely soft, sensitive side to her that we have seen in some of her music as well. Moon square Mars can lean to that bit of irrationality with emotions. So not to say that, anybody with this placement, again, is irrational with their emotions, but the moon is your emotions, Mars is your passion, your aggression, your competition, your drive, and when there's a square there, there's going to be a level of friction with your emotions as well as your competition or your need for aggression. So Moon being in Aries as well as Mars being in Cancer, that to me, Mars being in Cancer, especially Cancer, Mars is actually in Cancer as we are speaking, retrograde that is. Um, Moon square Mars looks to be in Cancer. That's a person that it takes a long time for them to get mad or for them to get upset. But when they do blow that lid, it is blown. And it's such a paradox. And I guess paradox because we can see that square here. Because Moon in Aries is like, I'm just going to get my emotions out. This is how I feel. Leave it on the table, and I'm fine. Like I'm not going to continue to stew over. I'm going to say how I feel. It might be a little bit big, and then I'm going to move on. But the Mars in Cancer is kind of somebody that may have had issues in the past of having to be, more of like a people pleaser, feeling walked over a lot. Um, so if there is a quick temper for someone with this aspect, it may be if they feel as though they've been people pleasing for too long, or they've been underappreciated or walked over. It being in the seventh house can point to potentially her closer relationships, feeling the effects of this more so than other people. Seventh house rules your romantic partnerships, your business relationships, your business partnerships, as well as kind of just like relating to people in a way, sort of, not like the fourth house, but relating to people in a transactional way. So it's interesting. In the fourth house, it's like familial relations, seventh house, different types of relations. So with that, Neptune being in the 12th house of Sagittarius, and we can get into the aspects that are being made there, I can absolutely understand if like taking time for pink self and withdrawing and spending more one-on-one time alone with herself would be beneficial to not, feel those intensity of emotions. So let's see here. That Mars is also making, I believe this is a semi, let's see if it's got the, I want to see the, like, matrix. Let's scroll down a bit, it's not going to be there. Hello? Don't know why I can't find it right now. Stand by. If I can't, it's no big. Alright, I'll find it later. So, going back to the Mars placements, she's got Mars looks to be sextile Uranus in the 11th house of Scorpio. That's an interesting placement. What this tells me, Uranus being in Scorpio, making that connection to Mars, is there may be a spontaneity to showing anger or competition, but when she does decide to compete, when she does decide to say, hey, I've been mistreated, not only does she come with the receipts because of that Scorpio there, and Scorpios, they're going to watch and wait, they're going to like be low key, be to themselves, see, the playing field, observe what's going on. And so naturally at that point, you're going to have more data points. Scorpio is the natural ruler of the 8th house, which is debt, taxes, other people's money, analysis. Even like in modern times, we could see that as like the stock market, for instance. And you have to be very, in esoteric things, so you have to be very like particular and exact, when it comes to those matters. So Scorpio has that exactness to it. Scorpio always in a weird way reminds me of Virgo. I know people say like, oh, Scorpio is just Cancer with a leather jacket on. I don't agree with that sentiment. I feel like Scorpio is Virgo when it got fed up. It's like Mars and Virgo. We could say like Mars and Virgo sextile Saturn, where it's like when it comes time to like lay down the law, that law is going to be laid. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a austerity. There's, or maybe not, that's the wrong word. There is a regalness um, that comes out there. So that placement being there, it kind of makes me think, like, let's say, for instance, if Pink were to, and I don't care about celebrities or anything like that, they're just like people like you and I at the end of the day, or even at the beginning of the day. But let's say Pink and somebody else were to run up to me, and just by birth chart alone, I have to make a deduction of who is telling, a potential truth or not. And I'm going out on a ledge here with this placement because I kind of just went back on what I said. I'm not looking at the whole chart here. But from the Mars in Cancer making that making that aspect to Uranus and Scorpio, if two people, one being Pink, were to come up to me and be like, "Hey, this is what happened. I got really riled up here. You got to believe me. This person, I'm not saying whatever the offense was, but they deserved it," and the other person was like on the defense or whatever the case may be. I'm taking I might lean more towards the side of the person with Mars making that sextile aspect to Uranus and Scorpio, just because there probably was a long, long time of that person getting to the point of, number one, reaching out to say, like, hey, like, this is something that's bothering me. But number two, yeah, I mean, I would just say that's it, All right, moving on to a couple of other different placements. She's got, oh man, I love these. So she's got Sun, Venus, and Mercury and Saturn in the ninth house of Virgo. Even more goes to show, and conjunct her North Node, also with her, geez, man, with her Lilith there. That's a lot of stuff going on there. That's a lot of stuff. No wonder why there's a bit of edge to her music. And dude, look at all of these placements. I just got to nerd out for a second. Let me zoom in. Look at all of these placements that are being made to her Chiron here. All right, so for a quick discussion, Chiron is a wounded healer. Chiron tells you, where you have been hurt before and where you can take that hurt and transform it into help other people. And obviously, knowing her as a musician, music touches a lot of people. It helps a lot of people. Seeing that Uranus aspect being made there with the square, I think that there's, and especially with the Scorpio, there's probably been a lot of times that she's maybe felt a little bit silenced or a little bit having to just like take things on the chin and then turn maybe channeling to music to get that frustration out there and helping people and how she felt about music potentially, like giving a voice to the voiceless is what I think with this. Or with that Chiron aspects being made there with all of those placements in the ninth house, telling a story without being too on the nose. You know what I mean? For whatever reason, I just get like a Kelly Clarkson vibe. You know what I mean? Kelly Clarkson, I think, was a little bit more of a softer heart on her sleeve, outwardly appearing. But Pink is coming from the angle of like, I'm upset, or maybe not upset, but I am asserting myself. This is how I feel. And Kelly Clarkson is more like, I'm in her earlier music, like, I'm hurt, I'm upset, I'm going to feel it, I'm going to process, I'm going to cry, and I'm going to stand up and tell you who I am and everything. But there's still that transformation of pain into power, just from two different ways. Kind of like, and I'm not saying that this is necessarily on, I haven't even seen Wicked yet. I actually intended to go see it today, but I will be seeing it this week. It reminds me of Glinda and Elphaba. I'm gonna look that up. I totally spelled it. Let's see pronunciation. Elphaba. Okay. Elphaba. Where, again, haven't seen Wicked, so I might be wrong here. I might be sticking my foot in my mouth. But Elphaba is very much like, hey, like, I'm green. People don't like that I'm green, maybe. I'm owning the fact of these are my beliefs, this is what I stand for, and I don't care what anybody says, that's Pink. Whereas, Glinda is more of like the love and light, whereas Pink all the time and Sparkles, which who would be Kelly Clarkson, but both are trying to accomplish the same things. But you know, and they both do. They come together. Not that I don't even know if they've ever had music together, but let's look that up. And if they haven't, I think that would be a pretty interesting collab. All I know so far. Okay, so they did a couple of duets. Interesting. I'm gonna listen to that after stream. They did Just Give Me a Reason. Oh wow, dude, let's go. Lift each other up. I mean, I totally see it. I totally see it. If you were to like before reading this like analysis, I would have been like, yeah, I mean, I don't know where like they intersect, but now I'm like, no, I get it. Um, what is History was made after Clarkson and Pink took the stage for an acoustic version of Who Knew from Pink's album I'm Not Dead. But before diving into a chilling performance, Clarkson chatted with Pink about the evolution of the song throughout the years, bittersweet nature of the song. I needed music to help me feel my feelings. Pink concluded before the powerhouse geared up for the performance line. That is so touching. Aw, Pink led the way, singing each note like an angel before Clarkson joined in with some haunting harmonies. Man, this writer is good. I wanna listen to this song now. Their voices blended like magic throughout the emotional performance. Dude, let's go. I love that for them. I'm 100% going to listen to this after the stream, and I think you should too, because it sounds like it's beautiful. So, Pink definitely heals through music. Her Wounded Healer, that Chiron placement, is also in the 5th house, which is all about your hobbies, entertainment, fame, romance, like short-term romance, kind of like a fling type deal. Also rules gambling and things like that. So making those connections with the 9th house. Oh man. So making those connections with the 9th house. Pink, to me, from reading this chart, or if anybody, were to have these aspects without digging too much into the rest of the chart, because I'm gonna wrap this up in a bit. If I were to look at this chart, I would say this person is definitely intelligent. Like they're an intelligent person. I mean, now Saturn being in Virgo, specifically in the 9th house, might have a little bit of like that. Reminds me of a person that doesn't want to be wrong. So they might be more. They 9 times out of 10 would be far more reserved, far more quiet because they don't want to say their own thing. But if they just opened their mouth, they would be surprised of how intelligent they are, especially with having that Mercury, again, in the 9th house of Virgo. So that making that aspect to Chiron, maybe there was like wounding with that or whatever from, 5th house always reminds me of like the teenage years, like for whatever reason, like the age 17 just really highlights it to me. But that can be, there's like a form of escapism with that through music, like exploring, like very intelligent when it comes to music, or being able to translate that into feelings potentially, like with lyrics, if that makes sense. Let's see, what else do we want to highlight here? That Pluto is nearly on that MC, which the MC is the highest point of your birth chart. It rules over your career, your reputation, kind of like the North Star as to maybe what you want to do that's going to give you passion, make you money, whatever the case may be. It being in Libra is ruled by Venus. So if we want to know what she's likely to do in terms of her career, we then find Venus, and that's going to be in, again, the 9th house of Virgo, which doesn't necessarily lead to music. That's more of like a caretaker, maybe like a nurse or something like that. But again, something that's very intelligent. If you were to tell me that Pink went back to school, for instance, and got her master's, got her PhD, did something in the realms of healing, I would 100% believe you, just because of where that Venus placement is. Also, we can see Venus is making some weaker aspects to the moon. So that being a part of her career, but I think understanding her role as a musician, looking back, she potentially maybe felt a lot of responsibility to like make people feel cared for or at home, recognized or seen with their music, especially with this Saturn being there. It's kind of like her making music for other people. This makes me feel like looking at all these placements, she is more likely to stand up for other people first than she is to stand up for herself. And I realize by saying that that might be a juxtaposition from her music and externally what we see, but I'm seeing a lot of sensitivity in her chart and somebody that needs time to like, you know, take moments for themselves and kind of like rear back. So I think it might be easier for her to speak for others and speak for herself, but in turn by doing that, that gives her a sense of healing. So Pluto being conjunct the MC, there is a Venusian quality to, you know, her career, but also when it comes to transformation. We can see Pluto is in opposition to her moon, which is difficult. So emotions being very stormy, being very turbulent. If I were to see this in necessarily like a birth chart, that could be somebody, again, that may potentially bottle a lot of things. Well, I can't say bottle a lot of things up because, again, like that moon being in Aries is just like a Spitfire kind of placement to me. But the Libra being there, again, Libra is kind of people pleasing. If I were to see this chart of, you know, I mean, just of like a random person, people pleasing would probably be her demise. You know, like the kind of saying, the body keeps a score. This is a person that like cannot people please for the betterment of, you know, just their well-being. Pluto being opposite the moon, you know, in the fourth house, she really puts other people before herself, and that can be to her detriment, especially that being in the 10th house. That could indicate, you know, just off rip by looking at this, somebody that maybe trusts people a bit too easily in their career field, potentially, and them being scorned from that. Because of that Venus rulership of Libra, potentially of, you know, female figures in the industry. So there's likely a healing that, you know, occurred there, or a transformation with that. It doesn't necessarily mean there was all doom and gloom around that. That could be, she could have had a placement early on in her life or later on in her life where it was, you know, a transformation that was turned into power. So I love that. Last thing, let's check out this. Wow, Jupiter in the 8th house of Leo, and it's making a nice aspect to the moon. So Jupiter expands anything that it touches. It being in the 8th house, again, is about esoteric things. It's about death, taxes, rebirth. It's, you know, investments. It's, you know, other people's money. That being there, this is something that reminds me of being a bit of an entrepreneur in terms of like enabling other people to work and like get money on like a diversified income, that's for sure. Now, it being in Leo doesn't make me think something that is, it makes me think of things related to the 5th house, so like creativity, talent. If you were to tell me that Pink was very savvy when it came to owning her own music, for instance, making her money make money for her, potentially with royalties, that could be anything with the Leo being there, diversifying herself. Maybe at one point she wanted to be an actress or something like that. This placement reminds me of people or actors and actresses that make money from royalties of reruns, like Friends, like Scrubs or something like that, where they always get a consistent paycheck, you know, by truly just showing up, their presence and doing the bare minimum. So if you want to, know a little bit more about this placement, maybe how it shows up in our chart, we then look at, you know, the sun, because Leo rules the sun. It's going to be in the 9th house of Virgo. And let me just tell you, dude, like Pink is she's a smart freaking cookie. that would then, so the ruler of the eighth house being in the ninth house of Virgo says this is somebody that's very smart with their money. Um, I don't see like an aspect being made to that would indicate maybe there's a bit of here again like maybe like deception when it comes to money of trusting the wrong people with that Neptune in the 12th house making that aspect to the sun, which is the ruler of the eighth house of other people's money. There could be issues with that, like a strong need to trust the people, who are asking for money in your life. But the moon and Jupiter connection here tells me that that money, can be in excess or abundance. And again, through emotions, um, in channeling emotions, it can indicate like all of, us as viewers or listeners, connoisseurs of her music, like giving her money. Um, yeah, let's see. Anything else I want to read? She's got her North Node in the eighth house as well, but this is moving into Virgo, which can indicate somebody that's very, like moving towards Virgo like qualities in terms of their career can be something that's, very big for them. Stewardship, having a servant's heart. Pink just really makes me think, like, she just seems like such a being who's been through potentially a lot in her life when it comes to being taken advantage of. Actually, didn't I just say before we started like looking at this chart, a Sun square Neptune aspect would lead to like identity crisis issues or like identity issues, and she literally has this in her birth chart. Um, so that's interesting. But regardless, that's Pink. Please comment anybody else that you would like me to read their birth charts of. I would love to do. I actually really enjoyed this of just making interpretations, figuring out on the internet if any of that is actually accurate. If you have any questions, please comment down below and please subscribe. I would love for you to be, a subscriber, a member of my channel. That would mean a lot to me. Oh man, I'm like her degrees are catching my eye, but I'm like, nope. Interesting. A lot of 17 degrees here. But anyways, that's all for today. Thank you guys for dealing with the technical issues that I've had, and I'll catch you next time.